for our survival at some level, especially in the present context of the surge in the COVID. Do pay special attention to the ideas expressed, connect with your own situation, and please ask questions on the chat box to address all the doubts you may have. I wish all the best in your health and a quick turnaround for all of us from the vicious situation created by the COVID-19 virus. Before I hand over to Anirban Datta, my close friend, who will be moderating the session today, I will just share a slide on what Bangalore Apartment Federation is doing for COVID. It will take only 3 minutes. Can everybody see the screen?
Not yet, sir.
Okay. Now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, sir, we can see the screen.
Yeah. I just want to take only 2 minutes to explain this particular slide. The Bangalore Apartment Federation is almost wrestling with Corona. We are trying to save the lives of 5 lakh citizens in our member apartments. The first thing that we did was when in the month of March, we created a task force called COVID Task Force in alliance with the BBMP, Bangalore Municipalika. After that, when it started increasing, we issued some guidelines based on the guidelines issued by the Government of India and BBMP. To see that there is no crowd in the market, the people in the apartment do not come out for marketing, etc., we provided the essential services at the doorsteps using the transport of the government provided, and the fruits, vegetables, groceries, every requirement would reach the apartment premises on a particular specific day, and it would be supplied. This was a good concept that we thought of. On one hand, the government wanted the farmers to be saved, to save the produce. On the other, we wanted to have the essential services to the doorsteps. Both were accomplished with this particular project called BESFEX, Essential Services of Bangalore Apartment Federation. As the COVID increased the surge, we started getting reports from the apartments, 1, 2, now I think it must be about 40, 50 apartments must have had the infection or the reports of B positive. Then we created a positivity group so that in case you find a positive case in your apartment, what should be done? The complete know-how, contacts, what is to be done, who to contact the doctor, BBMP, etc., was given in detail in the positivity group that was created subsequently, where only the persons who get positive are added on to the group to give them the guidelines. Still, it is on the increase, so we thought each apartment should have one volunteer conforming it with the citizen quarantine squad. Citizen quarantine squad is again done in collaboration with the government, and every apartment should have one volunteer to understand what is to be done in case of quarantine, in case of positive, etc. Now, even here, we find that it may not be sufficient, so we are going ahead with converting some of the apartments, party halls, community halls, wherever there's space, in collaboration with some of the hospitals, converting the party hall into a small COVID center. This we call it apartment COVID treatment program, so that the people need not have to search for this is only for asymptomatic and symptomatic people cases, but in case of positive, perhaps the doctors would take them to the hospital. This is exactly how we are trying to fight against corona. This is the physical aspect of wrestling or whatever it is. But what we will be listening today is something slightly different. How to prevent to get into this particular circus of COVID. Now, with these few words, I welcome Dr. Shruti and also my friend Anirban, and I request Anirban to take over. I will come out the screen, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Nagaraja, sir, and thank you for this wonderful, I would say, initiative what you are leading from the front, I must say. And as it always goes, I think it is very exciting to see how this whole thing is getting coordinated and organized. And going forward, as we all know, that we do have some difficult times in our hand, but nevertheless, I think there is one thing of trying to jostle with it, trying to fight it out. Yes, I think that is what is most important. But all is not lost. There are a lot of things which we perhaps sometimes we are not aware. Sometimes it get crushed within this plethora of information. All these things mixed together. So today's session is mainly aimed at clearing a lot of cobwebs, in our minds. A lot of myths will be busted. A lot of good information will be shared by Dr. Shruti, a good friend of mine, and I would like to take this forward. I'm sharing a couple of slides before I hand it over to Dr. Shruti. I will introduce her and then hand it over to you and to Dr. Shruti, and then of course I'll be always there when the question answers and those things have to be moderated. So this group, which me, Dr. Shruti, and few of my colleagues who are a part of this meeting today also are a part of, we are this group called Cerimed and Reach Healthcare. So I will briefly tell about Cerimed. It's a very interesting voluntary organization of professionals and practitioners who are fostering research and practice in the field of integrated medicine. So integrated medicine, if people are aware of it, and if people are, it's a very, very exciting field where a lot of torch bearers in the country. We have our very senior Dr. Padma Shri, Dr. B.M. Hegde, who actually is a torch bearer for this, and he happens to be our guru also in this case. And there are several other professionals across the world who believe that not one pathy is enough to handle humans' ailments. It has to be a combination. It has to be a very smart manner in which you need to deploy various pathies to see that you are able to tide over a crisis. And if you talk about crisis, today we are in the midst of it. And I think what better could be to talk about integrated medicine at this juncture. So having said this about Cerimed, it's a voluntary organization, as I said. I would talk about the practicing organization. Reach Healthcare is a for social company deeply involved with integrated medicine and telehealth to provide comprehensive healthcare solutions, treatment solutions. So like you have an ailment, you call up, and Reach Healthcare leverages this integrated medicine protocols, as well as the telehealth, connecting the patient from the comfort of his home to the doctor, and thereafter ensuring that the deliveries of the medicine, particularly in Bangalore, we are pretty efficient. We can deliver the medicine at your doorstep. So this is in combination of these two organizations. We are presenting this particular webinar of today. Having said this, it is my pleasure and absolute thrill that I am able to present Dr. Shruti Sridhar. Dr. Shruti is a fantastic combination of two different streams of medical science. One is modern medicine. She is an MBBS from Maharashtra University of Health Sciences. And then, of course, during her medical education and internship, she saw that there are a lot of challenges in modern medicine which could be addressed using alternate medicine. So she then completed her master's in public health and she worked as a medical researcher. She published many research papers in well-known medical journal. Subsequently, she went on to do her degree in homeopathy from renowned faculty of homeopathy from UK and got trained in Royal London Homeopathic Hospital. In 2017, she came back to India and set up her practice in Pune to fulfill her vision with an integrated view to treat her patients. So it is very exciting for us to know another sister city, Pune, which almost resembles Bangalore in many ways, how they are handling COVID, and a lot of things to learn from her when it comes to this method in which she practices integrated medicine. With these few words, now I hand it over to Dr. Shruti Sridhar and request her to take this exciting event forward. Over to you, Sandhya ma'am, if you can forward it to Dr. Shruti.
Thank you so much, Anirban, for that amazing introduction. I'm really happy to be here today, and thank you so much, Rao sir, for having me, and the Bangalore Apartment Federation for giving me this opportunity. And I really hope that I can clear out a lot of cobwebs that are, as Anirban said, that surrounds COVID. So without wasting much time, I'm going to just quickly start with the presentation. Can you guys see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So just a quick introduction about the virus. And I think by this time, everybody knows everything that is to be known about the COVID. But just in short, to say something, COVID has been around for centuries, and it has been known to cause influenza-like illnesses in a lot of animals. Now, in the last 10 years or so, we have seen a couple of epidemics with other coronaviruses like MERS, which is Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, and SARS, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome. So these were a couple of epidemics that happened, which also belong to the coronavirus family. And now we have this COVID-19. Now there are a lot of speculations about where did this COVID-19 come from. Like some say it was in a, made in a lab. Some say it was, it jumped from animals. But see, whatever is the origin, we don't know definitely yet. But what we know is that it's here to stay, and it is going to become part of our daily life, just like influenza has become. So influenza comes twice in a year, it makes its rounds, it infects a few people, and it goes off. But since influenza has been here for decades, we have a much stronger immunity to it, and we don't see such severe spikes in cases. So with respect to COVID, that is what is the difference, and which I'll explain coming forth. Now, one of the qualities that COVID has, that it mutates very quickly. Even in India, like in one city, I think they have seen close to 10 different strains of coronavirus. So this possibility of mutation is what's making the challenge of making a proper, safe and efficacious vaccine. And we have now clearly seen that it's going to take at least 1 to 1.5 years, and I'm saying at least because it depends on how the trials go, and do we even get any positive results out of it. So let's, without depending on it, I think we should equip ourselves in such a way that we are able to fight this irrespective of the vaccine coming out or not. That is what I feel should be done. Now, unfortunately, in this era of COVID, what we are facing is something called as infodemic, which is an information pandemic. And it's just mind-blowing to see, like in the last 30 days, and this I took from the WHO, there are 361 million videos uploaded on YouTube with respect to COVID, and 19,200 articles that have been published in Google Scholar, and 550 million tweets have been done just in the month of March, and which I'm sure would have gone up by now. So there is no way to actually properly curate this information, and unfortunately all this confusion is not just seen among the general population but also among the policymakers. I mean, obviously it is this whole plethora of information everywhere, and nobody knows exactly what to follow. Like, should lockdowns be done, should lockdowns be not done, because all countries have different experiences that they have shared. So I think somewhere we need to fact check the information. We need to make sure that our sources are correct, and as citizens, we have to take the responsibility of not spreading false information, especially through WhatsApp and Facebook and Twitter and all of that. It's just creating just a lot more havoc. If you don't know something about it, I think the best thing would be to not comment anything on it rather than spreading false information. So I think this is something that every one of us should keep in mind. Now, the reason I put this slide here is because we need to understand how an epidemic flows. And this is not something new that we have seen. We've had many epidemics in the past, and some of which have been really major, like the plague epidemic, the smallpox epidemic, the cholera epidemic, which have killed far more people in the past than COVID has currently. So what happens in any epidemic is that the cases slowly start to rise, and they peak and they fall. So this is called as a bell curve. And the way the bell curve works, like you can see that, some curves are flatter, like the yellow one, and some curves are much steeper, like the black one. Now, what determines whether the curve is going to be flat or whether it is going to be steep is the R0, which is called as the reproductive rate of the virus. Now, reproductive rate, it simply means that how many persons can one infected person infect. That is what is R0. So R01 means one infected person can affect one healthy person and make that person infected. So in case of COVID, the reproductive rate is somewhere around 2.3 to 2.7. So it is slightly more than 2. So the curve is going to be much more steeper than this black curve, but it is going to peak at some point and it is going to come down. So that is what you need to understand. And whether there are lockdowns or there are no lockdowns, this curve is going to happen. At the most, we can do the lockdown to provide a breathing space for the healthcare system, for the doctors, and for the people in general. But whenever the lockdown is lifted, we are again going to see a surge in cases. So the idea is to not panic and to understand that this is a natural course of an epidemic. And when enough number of people are infected and enough people recover, automatically the cases are going to drop down. And especially in India, where the population is more than 1 billion, this curve is going to look very huge. It is going to look imposing. It is going to look scary for some people. But the point is to understand that this is going to happen, and we need to find out ways to live with it and to manage it. Now, this is actually a very interesting graph that I found, which talks about the case fatality rate. Now, case fatality rate is divided by total infected. See that Ebola just talked about has very high case fatality rate, whereas COVID is actually pretty low on the side. And this is a data from, okay, sorry, I hope you guys can hear me clearly. So this is the data from March, and at that time the case fatality rate was somewhere around 3.4, and they estimated that it is going to come down to even 1, because as more number of cases are identified and milder or asymptomatic cases are identified, the case fatality rate would automatically go down. And this is what we are even currently seeing. So, and as more and more cases come, the case fatality rate is going to go further down. So that's that's a good thing, and we need to remember this whenever we think about COVID. So what are the chances, or why is it that the fatality was much higher in the beginning and it is not so now? I feel that there are a few reasons for it. First, we understand the virus much better. We are much more prepared healthcare wise. There is a policy in place. There are protocols in place. We know how to manage it. Even if somebody has a moderate or severe infection and gets to the hospital, we know how to manage that person. Judicious use of ventilators. This is very important, because in the beginning people were unaware that ventilators were actually causing more damage than good to the patient. So then they started tweaking the controls of ventilators, and they started explaining that how the ventilator should be used. And now ventilator use is done very judiciously and very cautiously, and not in all cases. There are a lot of other therapies which I'll talk about, which have been added to the protocol, which has definitely improved the survival, especially with COVID. And obviously now we know what are the major symptoms, what are the red flag symptoms that indicate that the disease is progressing, and so we can take measures as quickly and as early as we can. So this is the reason that we are in a much better position now, and now is not the time to panic, because we know what to do. Now this is a very busy slide, as you can see, but I actually like the pictographic presentation of what COVID does to you. So COVID affects, now this is the alveoli of the lungs, which are small air-filled sacs which are present inside your lungs. And in moderate to severe infection, once the virus, starts attacking the alveoli, there is a fluid accumulation here. So when there is fluid accumulation here, there is difficulty in breathing, there might be breathlessness, increased respiratory rate, and those are the symptoms of moderate to severe COVID. So this is what basically happens. Not a very important slide, but just to give you an idea. So what are the symptoms of mild, moderate, and severe infection? So I'm going to quickly go through this because I think this is very, very important. 80%, as you can see on the graph, 80% will have asymptomatic or mild symptom, and the mild symptoms usually last from 1 to 3 days, and it presents as just an upper respiratory tract infection. So you'll have runny nose, sneezing, cough, sore throat, loss of smell. There's also loss of taste, which some people are reporting, lot of weakness, and about 10% may, say stomach disturbances. So the COVID starts as a diarrhea, or as I say, loose motion with a lot of fever and headache and body ache and weakness. So this is actually a mild form and it may be COVID. So suspect COVID is what we call at this point. Now, when this progresses further to the lower respiratory tract, what it does, as I said, because of the fluid accumulation, it hampers your breathing process. So the oxygen saturation comes down. Normally, it has to be maintained between 98-99%. The oxygen saturation in moderate cases comes down to below 94%. So 90 to 94%. The respiratory rate, what is the respiratory rate? Is the number of breaths you take per minute. It increases. So normally the respiratory rate should be between 12 and 20. So that is a normal adult respiratory rate. When it increases to 24 or more, then it's higher and in the moderate zone for COVID. And obviously, if you do an X-ray or a HRCT is a CT scan, high resolution CT scan, it will start showing some signs of pneumonia, which is where the lung becomes completely white. So this means that you are in the moderate phase of infection, which happens between somewhere around 4 to 9 days of starting with the symptoms. And then if it progresses to a critical state, then you have a lot of symptoms of breathlessness. The oxygen saturation is less than 90%. The respiratory rate is much higher. It's around 30 or more. And these are frank signs of pneumonia. And definitely, you have to be admitted at this stage. Now, here I would like to add something, that if you have elderly in your house or somebody with comorbidities like lung issues, COPD, asthma, or diabetes, hypertension, cancer, or taking any immunosuppressive therapies, if this is the case, then I would suggest investing in an oximeter, which is actually pretty cheap. And if there are signs of fever and mild symptoms, you can keep constantly monitoring the oxygen saturation. Now this is very, very useful. I had a patient come fever since 5 days. Contacted me from Mumbai. They had not tested for COVID. She said that she had fever from 5 days. It was not coming down. It was not responding to paracetamol, and lot of weakness, but absolutely no breathlessness. So the only thing I told them was just let me know the oxygen saturation and the respiratory rate. The respiratory rate was more than 30. The oxygen saturation was less than 90. I asked them immediately to get admitted, and they got tested. She tested positive for COVID. She was admitted. She was on oxygen for a few days, and then she recovered, and she was discharged. So I think the key here is to identify how the symptoms are progressing. And because now this has become a community spread, I think everybody should be aware of the red flag symptoms. As I said, oxygen saturation, breathlessness, and respiratory rate. These are the 3 main red flag symptoms that you need to be aware of. And if anything happens, anything changes, contact your healthcare provider or go to the nearest COVID center. That is what I would suggest. Now, coronavirus infection has a lot of similarities with cold, like common cold, which is a rhinovirus, and the flu, which is influenza. And it's kind of difficult to distinguish just on the basis of symptoms. As you can see, a lot of symptoms are, covering in all the 3 aspects. But the difference between COVID and flu is that the progression is much faster in COVID. Okay, sometimes you don't realize, and within a day or two, or within even 24 hours, the person goes from mild to moderate or severe. So this progression that we are seeing is a little fast for COVID. But again, as I said, if you know what symptoms to monitor, then you know that fear is not there. Now, commonly for COVID, we are seeing fever, which is in 90% cases, of weakness, which is in 80 to 90% cases, a lot of dry cough. There's also one more symptom of loss of taste, which is not here, but that is also quite commonly seen. Diarrhea, as I said, it happens in 10% of the cases. Aches and pains are also pretty common. Sore throat is common, and shortness of breath, it may happen. So these are the symptoms that you need to look out for when it comes to COVID. Now, why am I talking about an integrated approach for COVID? Not just for prevention, but also for treatment, because there's no specific antiviral treatment that is being tested and that is being available right now. And there is a community spread, which has been happening for, I think, since May, it's community spread. And right now, only the governments have started to accept that there is community spread. So contact tracing becomes a little difficult. We cannot exactly figure out each and every person who has come in contact and how to link that. It's a little tough. And there is, as I said, there is unpredictability about the course. We cannot for sure say who is going to get really severe symptoms. Yes, those with comorbidities, as I said, with related health issues, other health issues might get severe, but there are cases in healthy people have also gotten severe pretty quickly. So it's quite unpredictable as of now. And there are evidences to show that early integrated approach can lessen the severity of the disease. And as with all viral infection or even bacterial infection, prevention is the best approach currently. Now, in mild disease, what do you do? First of all, if you suspect COVID, even before the testing is done, stay at home, self-quarantine yourself, and make sure that you're taking all the protective measures, especially social distancing, wearing a mask, washing your hands, not touching other things in the house. Have your items separately in a room if possible. This is even before getting the test done, so that you don't waste any time with that. Second thing, please do not take over-the-counter antibiotics for sore throat. I will talk about what else can you do if you have a sore throat, but antibiotics, please don't do it. It will cause 2-3 issues. First of all, COVID is a viral infection. The antibiotics will not do anything for it. Secondly, if you do have an infection and you're taking the wrong antibiotic, the infection will not go. Thirdly, the bacteria or whatever is there in your throat, that will become resistant to whatever antibiotics are taking, and that will cause more problems later on in life. So as a rule, please do not take any antibiotics. Always consult a healthcare provider before taking any medications. You can take homeopathic treatment, which works very well for mild sore throat, for a bit of cold, cough, fever, fatigue. I'll talk a bit more about it in the further slides. And Ayurvedic and non-specific therapies. Now with Ayurveda, Ayush and CSIR are doing trials on Ashwagandha, Guduchi, Yeshtamadu and Pipali, which have got antiviral properties. They are also testing an Ayush 64 drug, which is to be tested on 50,000 people. It's a formulation. Ashwagandha in particular has got natural compounds which have antiviral properties. So this is pretty interesting. I think it would be nice to see Ayurvedic doctor get a formulation done for you, and you can keep it at home and you can have it as and when you get the symptoms. I think this is pretty good. With respect to non-specific therapies, I'll talk a little later after explaining. So we talked about mild disease now. I want to focus a bit on moderate to severe disease also, because I think this is where people are getting admitted to the hospital. So they need to know what is going to happen to them when they are admitted, right? So admission will be advised if there is moderate to severe disease, depending on what is the oxygen saturation, what is the respiratory rate, and what is the degree of breathlessness. Now, there is not a lot we can do with integrated medicine, but homeopathy and vitamin C infusion has been shown to reduce hospital stay. So this is something that you can talk to your doctor about, and you can consult the proper specialists to get these treatments. Now, the first line of treatment that they'll have is antivirals. Now, antivirals will help only if there is a high virus load. a lot of the symptoms of COVID that we are actually finding, it is because of the inflammatory response of the body. So the body's immune system that is going in an overdrive, which is causing most of the symptoms of COVID, and not because of the virus itself. So if there are no the viral load is very, very less, then antivirals is actually useless, and it might cause more harm because they have a lot of side effects, especially remdesivir, which is being advertised now as a very popular antiviral drug for COVID. Again, please do not buy this over the counter without a doctor's prescription and without proper care, because this is a very, very heavy drug. It has a lot of side effects as well, right? Now, the second method or the line of treatment is to prevent the cytokine storm. I'm sure you guys must have heard of this word. So it is the severe inflammatory reaction which is produced in all the organs. It is a multi-organ reaction which happens because of the body's response to the virus. And a lot of immunomodulatory drugs and steroids are very, very useful in the cytokine storm. So this is something that might be given to you after the admission, depending on your symptoms. Also, one of the ways that COVID affects, it causes increased clotting of the blood. So anticoagulation therapy like heparin and aspirin also will be used, and they have also been shown to be good and effective treatment against COVID. Now, which treatment will be used for you? It depends on your care provider. It depends on the hospital, depends on the protocol that is being followed. But as a blanket, I'm going to tell you, always talk to your doctor. Even after admission, be informed about what treatment is being given and why it is being given. It is always good to ask questions if you're in doubt. Yeah. Now, I talked about non-specific therapies in mild COVID cases. So going a little bit detailed on that, hot water gargles, saline gargles are pretty good for prevent or even treating sore throat. So gargling with salt as well as turmeric, it has got antibacterial and antiviral properties that will help. Second is doing daily yoga and pranayam. Pranayam has been shown to strengthen the lungs, and especially Bhastrika, Kapalbhati, and Anulom Vilom. This has shown to increase the lung capacity. So this is something that I think not just for treatment but also preventatively can be done. Jal Neti is also very good for initial stages of cold, block nose, sinusitis, and doing it barely takes 5 minutes to do this. And if you do this every day, it will be really helpful. There is a hospital in Pune, which is a very big hospital called as Ruby Hall Clinic, and the COVID doctor there and the entire staff team, they have been doing Jalneti for the past, I think, 2 to 3 months, and the infection rate among the care provider or among the doctors is actually very, very less. So this is something even they made a video on Facebook saying that, more people should be aware of the advantages of Jalneti for preventing upper respiratory tract infection. So I think Jalneti is a very, very good thing to do. Make sure you get enough sleep. Now, sleep is directly linked to your immunity. The more late nights you work, the more work pressure you have, especially with the lockdown, working at home with the kids, with the family. It's not very easy. It's very, easy to slip into the routine of sleeping late, waking up early, not getting enough rest. So please make sure you're getting enough rest. Drinking a lot of warm beverages, like especially tea, which is made of lemon, tulsi, ginger, cloves, cinnamon, which have a lot of antibacterial and antiviral properties. I heard Dr. Hegde's talk once, and where he said if you drink hot water, not warm, but hot water, just sipping it will kill most of the bacteria in your throat. So that is a very, very good treatment as well as prevention for sore throat. So this is something to take note of. Steam inhalations, especially if there is congestion, is very good. You can do the steam inhalation with a little bit of eucalyptus oil or a little bit of tea tree oil, which has got, again, antiviral properties. That will also help to open up your lungs. So that is one very good thing. Natural immunity boosters is vitamin supplements. So vitamin C, at least 100 grams a day, definitely boosts up your immunity. Or you can have food that are rich in vitamin C. So especially citrus fruits, you can have amla, lemon juice, orange, mosambi, mango. Now the season of mango is done, but mango is pretty rich in vitamin C. So these are some things that you can start adding in your diet. Bananas are also rich in vitamin C. And vitamin D supplements, and this is something that I'm telling everybody to take now. Because of the lockdown, the sun exposure has gone down drastically. So because of that, a lot of people are getting sore throats, irritations, reduction in immunity, and that is being solved just by supplementing vitamin D. So the best would be to ask your doctor about the dose, but in general, what the dose recommended is 60,000 units to be taken weekly. So that is also something that you can supplement. If you do eat non-vegetarian food, then bone broth or the soup which is made from the bones, as well as chicken broth, is very, very good for boosting immunity even during viral fever, and as well as before that also for prevention. Um, and I'm going to talk about homeopathic prevention in the following slide, where I will talk about treatment and prevention. So I'm not going much into detail here. Yeah, so these are the non-specific therapies that are actually very, very good general antiviral treatments that can be applied to COVID also. Yeah, one more thing that I forgot to add is please avoid dairy products if you are having any upper respiratory tract infection, because dairy increases mucus production. So at least till the time you have the symptoms or you want to stay healthy, I would suggest just avoid dairy products. That includes everything: milk, buttermilk, yogurt, cheese, paneer, etc. So that is also one more thing to be noted. So for prevention, what you can do. So like with any other viral or bacterial illnesses, immunity building is what is important. So whatever I talked about in the previous slide is also for immunity boosting, and practicing yoga on a regular basis, because it improves circulation, it improves lymphatic flow, it improves hormonal balance, and it overall boosts your general body's fighting capabilities also. And the tea which I suggested is also extremely good, and I can definitely vouch for this because I've been having this tea. My mother-in-law has been making this every day for the last 3 months, and I've been religiously having it. And honestly, it really makes a difference, because some days I do wake up with a slightly scratchy throat, and I have this tea and everything is fine. So I think this is something that everybody should add in their daily routine. Now, let me come to the homeopathic treatment of COVID-19. Now, from my personal experience, I have treated 5 to 6 cases on the phone. All were from Mumbai, and they called me up because of references, and that's how I got to treat them. From what I feel, out of the 6 cases I had, one lady which I talked about had to be admitted to the hospital because the symptoms had progressed. For the others, the symptom died down or they became asymptomatic within 2 days, and after 7 days when they retested for COVID, they were tested negative. And of this, I think 3 or 4 were also diabetic, and they had some other health issues also, and they also recovered pretty well. So I think from my experience, homeopathy works quite well, especially if given early on at the onset of the disease. Also, I was part of a webinar in which top homeopaths came from across India, had come together to discuss their experiences. They among themselves had treated around 100 patients, and now even now they are treating COVID patients, and I got the same response from them, that they are getting symptom free in 2 to 3 days. They are testing negative for the virus in a week's time or 10 days time. And even those who are in ventilators, if they are given homeopathic treatment simultaneously, their oxygen saturation comes up much faster than it would have come up without the homeopathic treatment. So this was something very interesting for me also to hear. And this is what I tell all my patients also, like, so please do not worry. The moment you have any symptom like sore throat, fever, something not feeling well, it has been 2-3 days, something is going on, please contact your homeopath and get it sorted out as early as possible. So this is the best, I think as of now, this is the best thing that you can do. So homeopathy, along with the non-specific therapies which I discussed, is the best combination for treating mild symptoms of COVID. Now, as far as prevention with homeopathy is concerned, the CCRH, which is the Homeopathic Research Center, has advocated Arsenicum album 30C, and it has been distributed across various states in India. Even here in Bombay, they were distributing this in the red zone areas. So the dose that they are recommending is to take 4 pills in the morning, that is once a day, for 3 days. And then you repeat the course after 1 month if you are still in the red zone, if there are still cases around you and you still have exposure. And this is the document that I have put for your reference, where CCRH has announced the dosage of arsenicum album. Now, why I'm insisting on the dosage is because I'm seeing that homeopaths are not very consistent with the dosage that they are giving. Some are saying you have to take it every day for 15 days or every day for 6 months, but that is all wrong. The CCRH, the recommendation is to take it for 3 days and repeat it after a month. That is what is their recommendation, which you can read here. So apart from this, the general preventive measures, which is hand washing, social distancing, all that needs to be followed. The data about the efficacy of arsenicum album 30C has not yet been released by the CCRH. We are still awaiting it, but this does not have any side effects. So I think it is a very reasonable way to prevent the infection, and this can especially be given for those who have high risk exposure. For example, the healthcare workers, sweepers, garbage collectors, the policemen. So they are all people with high risk, high exposure. So they can definitely be going on this regime so that they can prevent the infection before it begins. And what are the other preventive measures? I think I've talked some of it previously, but just to recapture it, make sure you're eating wholesome food. More plant-based, I would say 80% plant-based, 20% animal food if you are having non-veg. Getting fresh air, very, very important. I understand it becomes a little difficult with the lockdown in place, but please make sure at least you have a brisk walk for 30 minutes outside, because there's nothing that can replace a good outdoor walk. Consume a lot of vegetables, especially rich in vitamin C, and get enough sunlight if possible. And if sunlight is not possible, then please supplement with vitamin D, because reduction in vitamin D has been known to cause reduction in the general immune system also. Here I'm going to talk a bit about giving attention to your mental health, because this is something that we are seeing very frequently. Even as a homeopathic practitioner, I am seeing a lot of cases of anxiety, lot of cases of depression because of the lockdown, because of the social isolation that is, and also because of the amount of information that is going around. So this has skyrocketed in the last 2 to 3 months. A lot of I would say a majority of the work that I do is counseling for these patients, because that's what they need. They need to hear that it is okay. They need to hear that there's nothing to worry, because the anxiety has gone up so much. So please pay attention to your mental health. Support your family members if they are going through anxiety or depression. Do not overlook it. Make sure you're treating it, or you're at least getting some form of help, either in the form of counseling or homeopathy or something, if they are facing some real mental health issues, because that is also known to reduce your immune system. So make sure of that. Supplementation, I've already talked about in detail. You can talk to a good nutritionist or a holistic doctor about what sort of supplements you can take. As I said, none of these measures that I've talked about are 100% effective. None of the preventive measures are 100% effective. They work to some extent, and so you need to still be aware of any early symptoms and get treatment as soon as possible. Now here I want to add one thing, that there is no vaccine for COVID that is licensed yet, and none of the existing vaccine has been shown to prevent COVID. Recently, there was a news in Mumbai that people were lining up to take the MMR vaccine because it might prevent the COVID infection. These are all not fully verified information. No major studies have come out. No major trials have been done on BCG or MMR or influenza or HIB, which is Haemophilus influenza B vaccine. So please do not run and take those vaccines. Okay, just wait. Follow all the things that we have discussed so far, and I think you will be good to go. So what are the takeaway points from whatever we have talked for the past, I think, half an hour? COVID is like any other respiratory flu-like illness. It is a new infection, and that is the reason we are seeing a skyrocket in cases. It will eventually settle down. 80% of the cases are self-limiting or mild, and only 15 to 20% will be moderate to severe cases requiring some further medical attention. As I said again, once the critical level of population has been reached, the epidemic is going to decline. And mild to moderate cases can be easily managed with generic measures, homeopathy, Ayurveda, yoga, and a good diet and proper rest. And for hospitalized cases also, as I said, some benefit is there from integrated approach, that is vitamin C infusion and homeopathy for bringing up the oxygen saturation. Prevention and immune boosting is the most important thing here. And lastly, I would just like to add that, just take this as an opportunity to pause, because I know people are not very happy with the lockdown, but this is what it is. I think it is good to have this pause in life, good to spend time with family, good to take a break from all the running around and just focus on yourself and see and reflect on your choices and make better choices. I think that is a good way of seeing this. So these are the helpline numbers that we have from REACH. And again, I would like to thank Bangalore Apartment Federation for having me for the talk. It was just amazing to be here. So I'll just pass on the thing to Sandhya.
Thank you, Dr. Shruti. That was actually very much needed, considering I think one of the points you made about the mental health. We have been receiving a lot of, people are reaching out on a host of, different reasons, and mental health is being affected pretty badly. One, the fear of the COVID itself, because there is information overload. And thank you for simplifying it and putting it in a way which we can actually understand and be prepared for it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. There are a lot of questions. Can I?
I just wanted to know whether you can repeat the contact numbers, that slide. I lost it, please.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll just put it up. I'll just put it up, ma'am. If
Sure.
you can give me the.
Yeah. I'll hand it over to Anirban right now. After that, we'll take the questions on the chat window one by one. If anybody else has any queries, please use the chat window rather than directly asking. Thank you. Over to you,
So I'm just putting up. Yeah, thank you, Sandhya ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Shruti. I think, as always, I think you're superb and excellent presentation, excellent carrying of such a difficult topic. But then I think you made it very, very lucid, very, very fluid. And I think, more than sometimes what happens when you hear an expert talk, it raises more questions than actually it answers. For sure, it's human to actually behave in that particular manner. So that is the reason we have specifically 2 helpline numbers. You can note it down. This entire presentation will be there with Sandhya ma'am, and I'm not sure of Sandhya ma'am if this gets uploaded onto your website or what it happens.
Yes,
but
I have shared the link as well, and we will share it forward to all the groups.
Right. So this is something which will be available with all of you, and you can approach Sandhya ma'am. You can call up on these helpline numbers. You would like to speak to Dr. Shruti, it is always, she's available. So we can go for any kind of help in this regard, because this is the time when we need to all stand up and be extremely active to see that whatever we do so that we are able to come out of this crisis, which is in our midst. So having said this, let me go over to the chat box. I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you. Thank you for the numbers. I just want to know this Arsenicum alba 30. I got it from my regular homeopathy store, but it is in those pill boxes. But it is okay. Should we have to get that old bottle, sealed bottle? What do you think?
I think we'll, so yeah, you can get the pills. You don't need to get the whole sealed bottle. It's completely fine.
Okay, so let me go over to some of the questions, Dr. Shruti.
I think we'll get to the questions. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have the first question from Nagaraj Rao sir. He's mentioning about one second. He mentioned, I saw two questions from him. One was about immunity. He
Yeah.
was mentioning that too high an immunity support is not good for your. So, what's your comment on that?
Yeah, so see, the thing is, I always recommend, even as a holistic doctor, I feel that immunity boosting should be done naturally. So even supplements, I recommend very sparingly and very rarely. There is nothing called as 2i immunity, to be very honest. And the thing what I call as immunity is your body's fighting capability against any invader, so any infection or anything. It doesn't mean that you should not get fever or you should not get cold. That is a very wrong notion about strong immunity. Strong immunity means even if you do get an infection, you are able to clear it off well, maybe without even any treatment. That is what indicates strong immunity. You can never be strongly immune without ever fighting a virus or an infection. It's not going to happen. So I don't think there's anything as too high a immunity, but yes, when it comes to supplements, it has to be done sparingly, and it has to be done with proper reason. So just popping in multivitamins is not going to improve your immunity. It is based on your anxiety levels, how well do you sleep, how is your mental health. So all those things matter when it comes to immunity. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, Dr. Shruti, I think what you just said is right. Is may not be something called too high, but then of course one needs to be careful about one's level of immunity. So I believe that if you're sleeping well, as you said earlier, if you're working out well, if you are exercising, if you're keeping your routines in order, and not because of this COVID and work from home, all our routines have got shattered, right? So
Yeah.
that routine, getting back that routine, is also a part of the immunity build-up.
Yeah. So
I'm
I
sure.
think one more question he asked was nitric oxide in the body inhibits replication
Yes.
of virus.
Yes.
Can you give comments? So see, the effect of nitric oxide on virus is a little divided. So it works better on DNA viruses compared to RNA viruses. Also, the efficacy of the nitric oxide treatment is not same across all the viral species. So I think this is going to be a call for the doctors to take, whether nitric oxide treatment can be given. Also, as far as I know, I might be wrong, but the ICMR has not come up with a nitric oxide in their protocol. This is something that I have not heard yet. Maybe some hospitals are trying it out. They are having trials and they're trying to figure out what works best. But what I have heard as far as the treatment protocol is concerned is, in the beginning, azithromycin is working well, and maybe an antiviral is required along with some steroids and some immunomodulators depending on how severe is the infection. So this is what I have heard from most of my colleagues who are in the infectious disease field. So this will be something very interesting if it really actually helps for COVID also, because yeah, that will be worth trying.
Can I add something here, Doctor?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I
Sure,
attended a series of webinars from the NIMANS. They
Okay.
were talking more about the relationship between yoga and science. During
Right.
that the webinar, the mention was made about Jalaneti, which you
Mm-hmm.
also mentioned. Jalaneti, and you mentioned some pranayama exercises, but they mentioned Brahmari, where
Huh.
you create a sound within yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
And Nimans has come out that using that sound in Brahmari increases the nitric oxide in the sinus vacuum 15 times more, thereby
Right.
cuts off, first of all, the virus entry. Secondly, even if by chance it enters, it will not allow it to increase. This is what just 3 days ago I heard from
That is
Nimans.
right.
So I thought I
But
should.
I am sure there's a difference between endogenous or internal production of nitric oxide and taking nitric oxide as a tablet. So when there is internal production of nitric oxide, it expands the blood vessels.
Yes.
So there are less chances of coagulation, which we are seeing with COVID. And also, as you said, it clears off the virus from the system. That is also true. This is also something that I have read.
Correct.
Yeah, you're
Right.
very right. That's very interesting. Yeah.
Hi,
Fantastic,
Shruti.
sir. Yeah.
Anand here.
Sir, sir, I will
Uh,
go one by one. These questions, we will clear out the list and then perhaps we can take individual questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
yeah.
So,
No, actually, I know him. He's a family friend. So
oh,
that is why he just told me hi, like, hi. Hello, uncle.
Hi, Shruti. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. We'll talk later.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So,
Bye.
yeah.
Yeah.
So here we
So
have, yeah.
let's
There's
go to the
one
next
more.
question.
Mr. Chandrasekhar Krishnappa is mentioning that
Yeah.
if a person is standing beside a corona infected person, and if the infected person is breathing normally and simultaneously the infected person's mouth is shut, what are the chances of catching infection by the person standing next to him or beside him?
Okay. So, Mr. Chandrasekhar, thank you for the question. First of all, now recent studies have shown that it is an airborne disease and it is no longer droplet spread. So that is a big, change in the way we are going to approach COVID, I think. If the person is breathing normally, and I'm going to still assume that it is droplet spread. So if you're not coming in contact with the person's salivary secretions or any other body secretions, as long as you are protected, he is protected, is I don't think the chances are that much. Also, it depends on the viral load. Okay, so when you are exposed to, let's say, getting something in a very sterile environment is different from getting something when you're standing in the sewage or in the gutter, because in a sewage the viral load or the bacterial load is very high, so your body has to fight even more to prevent the infection. Whereas if you're standing in a sterile environment or a healthy environment like your home, the viral load is going to be very less. So it depends on that, whether you're going to get the infection immediately or not, and also depends on your immunity. If you're able to clear whatever mild viruses do come across to you, you're able to clear it. So it depends on these three factors. And as I said, it is very difficult to say currently with the situation of community spread that where is your contact person, like what is your contact point. It's very, very difficult to say. Right? I hope that
Right.
has answered your question.
Yes, Doctor.
Sandeep has asked Arsenicum Album 30 brand where to get. So Sandeep, any brand is good. In India, what majorly goes is SBL brand, which is also pretty good. You need not get the drops, as somebody had asked. Do you need to get the drops? No. You can get the pills that are dispensed by the homeopathic pharmacy, or you can get the pills from your doctor as well. So depending on where you want to get them. Any brand is okay. So as I said, any brand is
Mhm.
fine, absolutely no issues.
Correct.
Recent release of the medicine by Biocom. Uh, uh, Rao sir, can you please detail me what was the medicine released by Biocom? I'm not aware of this.
I don't remember the name of the medicine. Yesterday there was a show on the TV. The
Okay.
Biocom was supposed to be the first in Bangalore in India to produce
Huh.
some sort of a vaccine like. I'm not very sure. It is
Okay.
Kiran was there on the line. She was telling, and somebody was appreciating that it has been done in Bangalore. Just wanted to know if anything else could
I
be.
have absolutely no idea about this. So let me read about this, and then maybe I can leave you a message or something later on that you can share it in the federation. Would that be
Right,
okay?
right. Perfect. Thank you, doctor.
Yeah, perfect.
Hi,
Yeah.
Dr. Shruti. This is Ravi. Hi, Nagaraj sir. I guess I read yesterday Biocon has did some monoclonal antibody-based medicine
Oh,
out. Hmm.
okay, fine. Thank you for clarifying that. But I'll just read about it and get back to you, because see, any new treatment, I would suggest don't get too happy about it, because it has to run through trials, like proper trials.
Correct,
This is
correct,
what
correct.
happened with hydroxychloroquine. So in the beginning, hydroxychloroquine was like like a magic
That
drug
is
which was
approved, right?
curing COVID. And then later on, as we moved through trials and we saw the efficacy, we realized that hydroxychloroquine actually does nothing. So currently, hydroxychloroquine is not recommended in most of the cases. So I think we
That's
need to
true.
be cautious with any new treatment that is coming up, and we need to take time to evaluate it properly before immediately pushing it to the masses.
Correct. So we have
Uh,
Naresh from Reach Healthcare mentioning about where you can get arsenicum album, and you can see in the chat box. Then we have Prasanna, Dr. Shruti, he's asking that is infected person can get infected again?
Yes, Prasanna. So the data is showing that the immunity to COVID kind of wanes after some time. So it's still too soon to say whether it is true or not, because we have only been 4 months into the pandemic and there is still a lot of new research which is coming out. But I think they are putting a gap of 6 to 9 months, before the immunity starts waning. So I think there is a possibility that it's possible that you can get reinfected. Also, if your immunity goes down, definitely you can be reinfected. So again, I'm coming to the same thing. Boost your immunity, make sure you're healthy, and that will prevent most of the things.
Absolutely. We have Jayanti ma'am commenting on your presentation, and she says it's wonderful and simple and
Thank
positive.
you so
First,
much.
simple and positive explanation. So the whole, and I also love that part when you speak to me and you tell me that there's nothing wrong. We need to handle it, and I think we need to brace up. And that is where the mental health part comes, and that is where I
Yeah.
think your presentation was really oozing of a lot of positivity in the whole thing. So coming to Sanjeev, he says, which oximeter should we get? Is there any idea, Dr. Shruti?
There are many brands available on Amazon. Any digital brand is okay, because you need to just get a rough estimate, and you don't need an exact figure. So as I said, it is a it is a range. So the healthy range is between 96 to 99, and then below 94. So 90 to 94 is moderately severe problem, sorry, moderate illness, and below 90 is severe COVID. So it is a range. So even if it is not accurate to the mark of 0.01 or zero point 0.1, no, it is fine. So any oximeter is okay. Just get one portable one and just keep it at home. So if there is a doubt, you can always rush to the hospital and you can get it properly assessed. That is the whole idea.
Yep. So then Soumya is mentioning that recently we are seeing news that COVID-19 is airborne. Is it true and is it proved?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So these studies keep coming up. So one study has shown that COVID is airborne. So now, and airborne, I think they have said it in aspect of how quickly it is spreading, and it is not just limiting to the contacts. So that is why I think they're saying airborne. And maybe it is true. So as I said, let's not get into that details, because honestly at this point there's nothing that can be done to prevent it if it is airborne. So you wear all the masks you can, you do all the preventive measures you can, you might still end up falling sick. So the idea is to how to tackle it if we do fall sick, and how to prevent it as best as we can. That's all we can do.
Absolutely. Then we have Vidya, Rajesh, and I think they're commenting on your presentation where they felt also very positive. I will go to and one question which I saw, which was very important. Sridhar is asking that if we have fever for only one day, do you think that we need to rush or we need to do something?
Yeah. So, Sridhar, that's a very good question, because people ask me this all the time. So, I am having fever, or maybe I tested positive, then should I do self-isolation at home? Now, the thing that I tell them is that the incubation period of the virus is between 8 to 14 days. Okay. So, if you have got the symptoms, that means you were infected 8 to 14 days before you got the symptom. So, you were probably already exposing your family members to it. So self-isolation at this point, I don't think it makes sense from family members. If you have already been with them in that surrounding and in that area for the last 14 days, then how does it matter that now that you have a fever that you want to isolate yourself? So the best is, I would suggest give arsenicum album to all your family members for 3 days so that they are prevented, and then you do all the non-specific preventive measures, like doing the pranayam, drinking the kada, taking ayurveda or the supplements, and making sure that the family members do not fall sick. That's all that can be done at this point. And definitely home quarantine for you is going to be there, because that is what the protocol says. But again, you don't have to isolate yourself from the family. You can do a home quarantine and stay at home. That you can do.
Actually, I'll be
Right.
honest on that. I mean, basically, a lot of I mean, there's no one consensus from the doctors on that issue. They go more in the aggressive mode and say
Yeah,
you've got to
yeah, yeah.
isolate,
But
or
Sridhar,
they'll
see,
say
you
that
have to see what works for you, because I think isolating in a bedroom for 14 days is going to play havoc on your mental health. So I am not going to recommend this. You rather, be at least with the family for 14 days. As I said, make sure that the other people are protected by using these other techniques, and that would be best. That's what I feel. I mean, as a doctor, that's what I suggest.
similarly, I have one more later in the chat posted another related question. It's like, what do we do? Like, what is the triggering point if we have only mild symptoms to get a COVID test? So let's say, I
Good
mean,
question.
and specifically my case here, but I'm just asking that front because
Mhm.
the first day I had light fever, then nothing for 4 days, and today again I have like light fever 99.3 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the triggering point? I mean, if it's only mild, then what do we do actually? So yeah.
See, even if you have mild, so it depends on the state you're in. So in Mumbai, mild to moderate, they say please stay at home, don't even come to the center. That's what they say. In Pune, unfortunately, they have still not started this home quarantine thing. So the moment you are mild to moderate, positive and symptomatic, they make a huge deal out of it. They take you to this, isolation center and all of that. So people in Pune are a little scared to get themselves tested. Whereas in Mumbai, they are okay getting themselves tested because they're like positive, hai to we will stay at home. Not a big deal. So it depends a lot on what is your situation out there in Bangalore. I would suggest if you're just having fever, just wait for a couple more days before getting tested. So there are a lot of other reasons that fever might come, like change of weather, something you ate that gave you a stomach upset. Like I am seeing a lot of cases of stomach upset causing fever in the last few weeks. So I think it's because of the weather or something like that. So just wait for a couple of days, see how it's progressing. If for the next 2-3 days you're still having fever, there is a lot of weakness, you're developing a little bit of sore throat, going in that direction, then I would say just get yourself tested just to make sure, and then you can take a call accordingly, or you can contact your healthcare provider, see what needs to be done.
Thanks.
And again, if you do test positive, Sridhar, don't panic, it's okay.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Shruti, I think Prabhu, your uncle, Anand uncle, is mentioning about you, and he's
Yeah, that's
blessing
right.
you, and he's blessing you for a
Thank
nice
you so
present.
much, uncle.
Yeah. Then you have Prabhu Patil. He's asking, what is the dosage of arsenic and album to be taken?
Yeah, so I already mentioned that. So it is 4 pills once a day in the morning, an empty stomach for 3 days. So that's how it goes.
Okay.
And 10
Then
minutes, for 10 minutes after taking the dose, please do not brush your teeth or have anything to eat. So leave a gap of 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes.
and this has to be repeated every month. Every 30 days, you need to repeat it
Every
till the
30
time the
days,
virus
if you
is.
are still in the red zone, yeah. If you're not in the red zone, it's okay. Doesn't
Okay.
matter. Yeah.
So then we have Madam Uma mentioning that do we get a sealed bottle of arsenic album and not loose
Yes.
peel, something like that?
I mean, sealed bottle as in the bottle that they make and give you, dispense you, that is the sealed bottle. You need not get the drops that you get, which is sealed. A normal bottle is okay.
Gloria, please.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
Madam, this answers you, Uma, Madam, that if a pharmacist gives you a mixed bottle, that means he prepares and gives it to you. That is also
Yeah.
okay. You
That
need
is
not go
also,
for.
yeah,
That is also
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
So, can we get then Abhay is mentioning? Can we get arsenic album for society, and can you share the protocol for
I think this is
distribution to
something
security staff and
Nagaraj Rao
society?
sir has to answer.
Yeah.
I think he might be a better person to answer this question. Like, can you take up the thing of distributing arsenicum album in the society?
Let me answer. In case there's a requirement, we will definitely get in touch with the concerned agency and then ask them to directly supply instead of we taking it up, because it becomes we are not
Yeah,
doctors. We will take the advice of doctors
I
and
think
then.
Reach can also help, no, sir? You can
Yes.
ask Anirban to see how the logistics can be arranged.
Yeah,
Yes.
in Bangalore, anywhere in Bangalore, if you can let us know and call up in the helpline numbers, will be enabling to ensure that it
Anirban,
gets
I'm just
delivered.
going to make one
Yeah.
addition here. Please
Yeah.
have one bottle per family. Do not give more, because it happened in Pune and Mumbai. There was a short supply of arsenic, and
Yeah.
where even I wanted it for some of my patients for some other reason and genuine reason, and I could not find it, and they could not find it.
Right.
So do not over distribute the doses. Do not give one per person. They were doing that in Mumbai in some of the societies, because the
Right.
dosage is so less. You can just give like a 1 gram, which is a 7-gram bottle. You can give it for the entire family, and that
Correct.
will run for at least 2 to 3 months if they are taking monthly. So just be
Correct.
careful with that, like how you're
Correct.
distributing it, the logistics of it.
So the CCRH guideline is very clear in terms of the depiction that it is only
Yeah.
3 to 4 pills and only 3 days in a month for every member. Then we have quickly we'll go through oximeter can be made available at our medical outlets. Somebody is mentioning. Then
Great.
if we have, I think.
I think
There
Rajesh's question we have already answered. Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
there
Sandhya.
is one question to the organizer, which has come in private. Please mention protocol for people with increasing symptoms. Are there any protocols which we can follow?
Hello.
You're asking me or Nagaraj Rao sir?
No, I'm
No.
asking you, Dr. Shruti. There was a
Oh, you're
query which has come, so I'm just posting.
Okay. So protocol for moderate symptom you're asking, right?
Progressive symptoms, I think.
Progressive symptom.
Yeah.
So there's no, so the protocol that the ICMR has given, so if you're having, as I said, if your respiratory rate is more than 30, and if you're having symptoms of breathlessness and your oximeter is showing a saturation of less than 94 or less than 90, then it would be best to get yourself admitted to the nearest hospital. The reason I'm saying this because the breathlessness progresses from this to very severe very quickly. So I don't think at this stage it is worthwhile to, keep yourself at home and take the risk. The better thing would be to get admitted. If you're fine, they'll discharge you in 2 or 3 days. That is fine. But if you progress, at least they'll have the, equipments to support you for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So one
Yeah,
question
so
from
just
Vidya.
as I said, 3 red flag symptoms: your respiratory rate, your level of breathlessness, and your oxygen saturation. Just keep a check on this. And if this is progressing, then please go and get admitted.
Right,
One
doctor.
more question from the same
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
What are the points which will be tested by here? It's the municipal government as BBMP, but generally for a home quarantine or institution quarantine, is there any difference? Is there the testing
As in
parameters?
you're asking what symptoms they are okay with home quarantine?
I think that's what he meant. He says what are how the points will be tested by BBMP.
Well, see, in Bombay, what they are doing is if you call up the COVID helpline, they tell you that are you feeling breathless? How is your fever? How is your respiratory rate? They ask you that. And if these are within the normal parameters, they say, please stay at home and you come to us if the symptom starts worsening. So this is what is the protocol that they are following in most places. In Pune, as I told you, they have not yet started with home quarantine. So the moment you are symptomatic, they are just taking you to some isolation center, which I don't think we should be doing that anymore. We should start coming up with home quarantine now.
Yes, doctor. Rajesh mentions that if someone is tested COVID positive and thereafter gets recovered completely, does it guarantee that he or she will not
Yeah,
get
so we have already
infected
touched
again?
that point, I think.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
or she may not get infected again. So there is a possibility
Yeah,
that
there's no guarantee. There's no
there's no
guarantee. Yeah, there's no
there's no
guarantee. Mhm.
guarantee. Okay. So if no dairy products, what next? That
What
means
next?
what
Everything
else?
else can be consumed.
Okay.
Everything else can be consumed.
Okay. So I think Sandeep mentioned about Alzumab from Biocon, and then what is,
Yeah. So
what is the
this actually, Sandeep, this immunomodulator, there is tocilizumab, which is already there, which they have already been using for COVID. This is just a newer molecule that they have come up with. So,
correct?
tocilizumab is also been shown to be pretty good for cytokine storm. as I had said. So if you are having symptoms of cytokine storm and your doctor feels that it might be useful, then he might use the drug.
There is
Right.
one more query, doctor. Is there any age limit to take the medication? I mean, especially in children.
Arsenicum? No. You can give the same dosage to kids also, and especially only for infants like below 1 year, I would suggest give just one pill rather than 3 or 4 pills.
Okay, thank you.
Rest is all the same. Yeah.
Yes. So, what is the triggering point to get
No,
COVID
we have
test
discussed
if you
that.
have mild
We
symptoms?
have
Yeah, we have
discussed that.
discussed. We have
He
discussed
asked me
that.
directly.
And
Can
please
someone
suggest.
get breathlessness directly without other symptoms? Yes, Swati,
Yes.
it is very much possible that you can get directly breathlessness, and it is also possible that you cannot get breathlessness and you can still have a very low oxygen saturation. So this is why I'm saying please invest in an oximeter and keep it. If you're having elderly at home, kids at home, it is worth investing in an oximeter. It's not very expensive.
Right. So, do we have to wear masks even at home?
No, absolutely not, Uma. No masks at home. In fact, the studies have shown that if you wear mask continuously for 24 hours, you are yourself reducing your oxygen saturation by 4 points. And doctors who are wearing the protective equipment throughout the day with those 3-layer masks, at the end of the day, their oxygen saturation goes down by a couple of points. So you are actually inducing lower oxygen concentration by wearing the mask regularly. So reserve the mask only if you're going out in public in very crowded places, that too. So if you're walking alone in a road with nobody around you, you don't even need to wear the mask, to be honest.
I think, and one more question, Shruti, you can have a look. I think sore throat keeps coming back in spite of gargling, etc. Should we get tested?
Not really, not at this point, because as I said, the symptoms of COVID kind of spills off pretty quickly. So you'll get sore throat, you'll get a fever, you'll get a body ache or a weakness or something, and then it'll progress from there. If you're just having a sore throat, it is just a sore throat that keeps coming back. So I think at this point, Uma, homeopathy will be something good to try, because repeated sore throat, repeated tonsillitis, homeopathy works really well to cure it.
Right. So then Suresh is asking that when do we need to first visit any doctor or COVID-specific hospitals or go through BBMP given approach?
Yeah, I think we
Uh,
have discussed that.
yeah, we have discussed that. I think any doubt you can always consult a doctor. Telemedicine is a very prominent practice now, so that can be availed for consulting a doctor.
Yeah.
Then how Vidya is asking, how do we be aware that we are not harmful or spurious? That means vitamin C and Zincovit, whatever is available, many brands are getting sold. So which are the ones?
Yeah, so I would suggest go for brands which are organic, which have so they have usually this tags, like FDA approved, organic, GMO free. So this is something that you can look for. I suggest if you're looking this for kids or for yourself, just take the ascorbic acid powder which you get, and then just 1/4 teaspoon of that powder, you can use it in some smoothie or some juice or something, mix it up and just drink it. That is what I feel is the best, because if you take capsules, they always have some fillers. Also look for ingredients in the capsule, like what are the other filler ingredients that they are using other than vitamin C. That will be something to look out for. Do not mix it up with other vitamins. So if you are taking vitamin C, then just take vitamin C. Do not mix it up with don't take a multivitamin tablet. I mean, that is something I'm not going to recommend. And better than taking a vitamin C supplement is just increase your vitamin C intake of fruits and vegetables, and I think that is something that is better than taking supplements.
Harish is asking, how can we measure respiratory rate?
Very simple. Just put your timer on and count the number of breaths that you're taking. And it's sometimes difficult to do it by yourself, so you can ask somebody else to do it for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am also so used to curd, buttermilk, and so how's that? So I think you said to avoid it.
Yeah,
It's best to
I
avoid it.
suggest to avoid it. I give a big, during my consultation, I give a big long essay of why it is very bad. I don't think we have time to cover that now, but yeah, this is something that you can just be mindful of. If you can
Right.
avoid them, just avoid them for a few days if
Correct.
you're sick. Yeah.
Correct. Someone is asking, can we take Simmune 500 mg and 550 mg zinc? Something. I don't know the brand. Are you aware, doctor?
No, zinc, yeah, so zinc has been shown, but again, the studies are conflicting. So, as I said, better than popping up vitamin pills, eat healthy. That is the best way.
Right. Is there a blood test, some test to check if diseases in any individual would lead to cytokine storm?
No, there's no way to say.
No. No. If
Mhm.
cytokine storm is expected, I lost that question. If cytokine storm is expected,
Have we found a way of preventing it? So,
preventing.
there is
No.
no way of preventing the cytokine storm, but once the cytokine storm happens, they give immunomodulators and things to reduce the symptoms. The thing with cytokine storm is it happens suddenly. There's no way to say that is going to happen, and that is why I'm saying please keep a track of the red flag signs. So if you're having the signs of increased respiratory rate, reduction in oxygen saturation, just go and get yourself admitted. So if you do end up in a cytokine storm, they are able to treat you immediately without any delay in time.
Isolation plays havoc on the mind, as doctor said. Sridhar is mentioning.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
arsenicum album 30 CH dilution or 030 granules, is it the same thing?
Oh God. No, both are very different things. 0/30 is a LM potency, which is very, very different from what the CCRH is recommending. CH potency is what the CCRH is recommending. So CH, don't take the dilution, but take the pills, not granules, pills. So pills are like a bigger size, granules are extremely small. Pills are like this size, you can say. Those pills need to be taken of arsenicum album 30C is the potency.
So that's all. We have questions on the chat box. If any other question is there, and we can take.
I
Over
think
to you,
there is one
Sandhya ma'am.
more. Yeah, a respiratory rate is equal to number of breaths per minute if over 30, taken over 2-3 repetitions when high respiratory rate is declared. Red flag sign. Is that true?
Correct. That's what I said. So the normal respiratory rate is between 12 to 20. So if it is increasing more than 24, so it is between 24 and 30, that means that it is an indication that it is progressing, something is happening. And if it is more than 30, then it is definite indication that your lungs have been affected and the pneumonia has set in.
May I ask one question, doctor?
Sure.
Yeah, my name is Vidya. Just regarding the helpline, I just wanted to know whether it is, if there are any specific timings and is it a pan-India kind of a number? Anybody can call those numbers?
Yes, ma'am. It is a pan-India number, and you can call up during the office hours. Generally, it is open from 10 o'clock to evening 6 o'clock.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, ma'am. Can we call helpline and get the arsenic dose? Yes, Abhay, you can call up the helpline and they'll help you in enabling you with the arsenic album dosage.
Sandhya?
Yes, sir. I think we are done with the questions on the chat. If anybody else wants to ask directly, please unmute yourself one by one.
Hi, doctor.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. We have around 100 plus staff, which includes the housekeeping, security, property management staff. So they are every day exposed to this, like cleaning up the apartment and handling the outsiders and all. How do we make sure that these staffs are not affected, and what are the things that we can do for the staffs?
Yeah, so one that you can start them on arsenicum album 30 preventive dose. And also make sure that if like you can give a talk to them and say that if anybody is having any of the symptoms that we have discussed, then they should approach you or the apartment management, or they should approach a doctor to get it sorted out. I think this is something that can be done. And with respect to eating and vitamins and all that, it is kind of difficult to do with the staff, but I think this is something that can be done. So arsenicum album 30 distribution to the staff will be your best option.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Shruti, good afternoon. This is Rajesh.
Hi,
One
yeah,
of the
Raj.
biggest scares that I have in my mind is, about hospitals getting out of beds these days. So in such a situation, is it recommended to have a oxygen cylinder, at your home and, use it for the entire family?
In case of infection, you mean, right?
Yes.
See, this is something that you need to take a call depending on the situation when you do get infected. I don't think it is necessary to have an oxygen cylinder at home unless you have a really ailing person who has a lot of immunocompromised issues, like they are bedridden, they are undergoing cancer treatment or something like that. I think unless it is this bad, because you are going to have a few days, before, as we discussed, the first 1 to 3 days will be mild, and then 4 to 9 days you will have a little moderate symptoms. So you will have a good gap of 3 to 4 days to decide whether the oxygen will be needed or not. And also, rather than having oxygen at home, I would still suggest to get yourself admitted, because as I said, you don't know when the cytokine storm is going to hit. See, I don't want to create panic here, but I'm just saying that if you are in a healthcare center, then it is much more safer because they can keep an eye on you. That's all I'm saying.
Doctor, I have
Got
a
you.
question.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Doctor, for how much time on the vegetable the virus will stay, or whenever we are getting outside condiments from outside, on that how much time we should keep it aside?
See, honestly, there is no way to know, because you don't know when was the last time it was touched by anybody else, right? So even if you're buying something from outside, it's on the shelf and you don't know who has touched that when. So it is kind of difficult to say. I would suggest don't go down that road for paranoia and cleaning everything that you have purchased from outside. Vegetables that you're getting, you can soak them in vinegar. Like take water, you put 1 cup, 5 ml of vinegar in it, and you just soak the vegetables in it for 5 minutes and then wash it properly. That itself is enough to disinfect it. And I think one more thing I want to add here is that please do not get paranoid and start spraying disinfectants everywhere in your house, or using hand sanitizers again and again, because now I am seeing a lot of cases of allergic rhinitis because of disinfectant spray, and also allergic eczema because repeated use of hand sanitizers. So it is not good. It is not good to keep using this again and again, unless you know that you have been exposed to something and you want to clean something. Yeah, once in a while you use it, it is okay. Do not keep repeatedly cleaning things like that.
But you can keep on washing your hands any number of times with soap.
Yeah, hand washing is okay. Hand washing is fine. Yeah, but even that, for some people it is causing dryness. So keep an eye on that also. You shouldn't be spoiling your health, right, in the process.
And vinegar should be fine, madam, no, for washing the vegetables.
Sorry?
Vinegar will be okay, no?
Vinegar is fine. Yeah. The white synthetic vinegar is more than enough.
Okay.
Yeah, even a little bit of rock salt also you can use. That also helps.
Sandhya, we could conclude.
Yes, sir.
Before you do, let me just add on. It was wonderful, Dr. T.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, Shruti, you said don't add the word doctor. Sorry, it's okay. It was really good, very encouraging. And at the same time, you have not only cured COVID, but also the mental problems. You have clarified so many points here for the benefit of the people. One point I wanted to add, when you said that why not Apartment Federation take the distribution, Madam, Bangalore Apartment Federation preaches fishing, but don't give a fish.
Very good. Very good. I think I like what you said.
We always say, do this, get it, and all that. Don't ask us whether you can take it from the pocket. Most of the things, all the initiatives are like that only. We have so many initiatives, solar, security, database creation. They need not have to go anywhere else, but that is the policy of. And second policy is we work for a cause, not for a plus.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very true.
And I think
having said that, Mr. Rao, I live alone and I'm 76, 77 and I'm comorbid, both highly diabetic and cancer from 20 years. So how do I get these small supplies of homeopathy medicine? And my homeopath doesn't deliver home.
We will deliver, ma'am. You can give a call to the helpline. Which part of the city you are in?
Mangla?
We will get it delivered, ma'am. Don't worry.
Ma, there must be some people in the apartment, some young volunteers who are assisting.
Also doing the job.
People.
Yes.
I'm laughing, Mr. Rao. I'm laughing. If at all anybody has time now in this COVID time, the children are so much stressed out. They don't even detox from their system. And we are the ones who are taking front line to say, okay, children, you do this, you do that. If I get homeopathy and distribute to my apartment complex, they'll all be very happy about it.
Sure, madam.
Thank you.
We will request Anirban to organize it and see that it reaches you. Don't worry, Uma.
We'll take your contact numbers from Madam Sandhya.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bless you. Thank you very much, Dr. Shruti. It was really awesome to hear an youngster talk so positively and give us a lot of insight into, so that we don't get frightened, we don't get alarmed, and now we know what it is all about. I've also taken shots without your permission so that I can circulate it to our senior associations also. Thank you
I
very
hope
much.
I could reduce your anxiety a little bit with respect to this.
I didn't have any anxiety, but my children have a lot of anxiety about me. Since I live alone, they, how are you? How are you? How are you? They go on, and it's irritating sometimes.
So, ma'am, the presentation will be made available to Madam Sandhya. You can take it from her. It will be there with you. We'll send it to her.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a nice weekend. Whatever is spent out with us, of course, you hardly have a half a day to enjoy.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Rao sir, you were mentioning something.
Anand was trying to contact you, perhaps. Anand?
Yes. Yeah. Hello, uncle.
Yeah, how are you, Swati? Shruti,
Very
sorry.
good. Very good.
Yeah,
Hi,
so
uncle.
far here.
Good. Thank you so much for joining in.
Yeah, are you broadcasting from Pune or where?
Yeah, I'm broadcasting from Pune. I work with Reach. So the organization that Anirban is a part of, I work with Reach. I'm one of the homeopaths in the contact. So I do telemedicine from here.
Okay.
And so that's how I decided to do this webinar.
Where's here now?
That's lovely. Consultation fee, doctor?
I think you can
speak to
contact
you.
Reach and they'll send you all the details. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Uma, I have shared your number with Anirban. He'll get in touch with you.
Yes.
Thanks, Atan Sandhya. You are such an angel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anand, Bangalore
Yeah.
Apartment Builders will
Are
claim
you
loyalty for your consultation.
Yeah, I think you should do that.
We'll talk privately about that.
No, Anand. We will not do it. We wanted everybody to live happily. That's all. That's our content.
But sir,
Sandhya?
I think
More merrier, the better.
yes.
Yeah, I think there's one query from Vinod.
How about
Vinod,
Ayush?
would you like to ask?
All others, please mute. I'm muting.
Yeah, Mr. Vinod, would you like to ask the query or? Okay, he wants to know, does turmeric, ginger, clove, lemon boiled in water be helpful?
Yeah, that's what I said. The kada that you make, also add pepper to this because you need pepper to bring out the properties in turmeric. So turmeric, pepper, ginger, cloves, and also add cinnamon and a bit of lemon squeeze in the end. And this is really helpful for clearing a lot of things in your throat. Have it hot, sipping as hot as you can.
Yes,
One
we
more.
call it
Are
the
you
Kaya.
64?
Ayush 64, Sridhar, I
64.
don't know if Ayush 64 has already been tested because I have not seen any articles on it yet. I think they are still in the testing process, if I'm not wrong. So I think a Ayurvedic doctor would be a better person to answer this question.
Okay, thank you.
And I think Naresh has also said that we have Jalneti pots at Reach. So that is also good. Please invest in one Jalneti pot so that you can do your Jalneti every day.
Sandhya, could you?
Yes, sir.
She has been there for at least an hour and a half.
Yeah. I'm aware of that, and I'm really grateful for her taking the time and the patience to respond. First of all, educate us and respond to each and every query people had. Thank you very much, Doctor. This has been a wonderful session. I hope we continue this collaboration in the future as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
One point of caution about Jalneti, doctor, if you don't know how to do it, I think you should avoid it because it can also, cause some breathing problem.
Yes, so yeah, exactly. So maybe contact an Ayurvedic doctor to teach you or a yoga practitioner to teach you about how to do Jalneti. That will be good.
Uma, I will be of some help to you because I have been following this Jalneti for the last 8 years without getting affected by any virus.
No, even I have done it 20 years ago when I went to Jigni, the Vivekananda Kendra, soon after my mastectomy. But after that, I think I have also discarded the Jalneti, that tube. So I don't know. Anyway, so far so good, so far so good. So that's good. I'm good today. I was good yesterday. Tomorrow I have to make it good. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just one more query which has come, I think, which is relevant to most of the apartment complexes. If you can take.
Sandhya, last question. Sandhya, last question.
Yes, sir. In an apartment, how frequently we should sanitize entire floor now that the community spread is in and we are facing a lot of positive cases? How many times do you recommend sanitizing floors and residence flat in positive cases?
See, inside the resident flat, I don't think there's any point in sanitizing. Let me be very frank. And about the floor, I think once a day is more than enough. As I said, too much sanitizers is not good. Too sterile an environment is also going to drop your immunity. So you need to have a balance between sterilizing and sanitizing too much and then sanitizing too little. So depending on what is the footfall in the building and how many times a day people are going in and out, maybe once or maximum twice a day should be more than enough. Even hospitals don't sanitize more than twice a day.
Okay, thank you, doctor.
Agree.
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the general tendency is to go overboard. People think it's okay to do more than do less. So
yeah, exactly.
That is a challenge.
Exactly.
So, yes.
Yeah.
The fear and the anxiety is causing the overdrive.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Shruti and Anirban, for enabling this session. So,
Thank you. Thank you
very
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
It was an
Nagaraj
awesome
sir.
session. Thank
you very much.
Thank you, Madam Sandhya. And we'll be in touch with you. So
Yes.
no problem. Anytime you have any need, please do let us know, and
Sure.
we'll be at your service to you.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you. See you all. Bye.
Thank you, Bab. Thank you, doctor.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Namaste.
Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Anirban. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, sir. Thank you.
My
Thank you very
personal
much, sir.
thanks to Dr. Shruti.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye,
Bye.
sir.
Bye.